The number is so outrageous that when you first hear it, it almost doesn't sound real. Over 38,000 miles. That's how far the San Francisco 49ers are projected to travel this season. Not just the most in the league, the most in NFL history. And when you stack that on top of a roster that has dealt with injuries year after year, you can't help but ask the question, is the NFL setting the Niners up to fail? Let's really think about what this means. You already know about the international Atlanta, New York, Kansas City, Dallas, Seattle, Arizona, and suddenly you're looking at a schedule that has the Niners living in the air. Atlanta alone is over 4,000 miles. The Giants trip, more than 5,000 miles. Heading to Melbourne,
Chiefs,
Australia,
nearly
to face
3,000.
the Rams at the
Cowboys
Melbourne
at
Jerry
Jerry
World, close to
nearly
100,000 seats. When you total everything
Global
up,
stage.
you hit that staggering
First ever
38,000
NFL game in
mile
Australia.
number.
That's
Now
historic.
here's where this becomes
That's
more
massive.
than just trivia.
That's brand
Travel
building.
matters.
But it's
Recovery
also
matters.
nearly
16,000
matter.
miles round trip.
Soft
tissue injuries
That's not
increase
just a road
with
game.
fatigue.
That's an intercontinental
and
mission.
historically, this has
That's
been
just
one of the
one
most
trip.
injury-hit teams
They're
in
also
football.
playing in Mexico
That's
City
not
again.
narrative.
That's
another
pattern.
4,000
So when you
miles round
ask
trip.
whether this could take
Even
a
though
toll on the body
technically
over
it's
a
home
full
game,
season,
that's
add
not
in-
overreacting. That's being realistic. But here's the flip side. The 49ers are a global brand. 5 Lombardi trophies. One of the most iconic franchises in the sport. When the league wants to showcase football internationally, who do they call? Teams people recognize. Teams that move. Merchandise. Teams with stars. That's the cost of being a premier franchise. And geographically, the Niners already deal with a built-in disadvantage. They're on the West Coast. Every East Coast trip is longer than what most teams deal with. That's not new. That's been part of the equation for years. So, is the league screwing them? Or is this the price of prominence? I want you to weigh in right now. Simple, yes or no. Are the 49ers getting screwed by the NFL schedule? Type yes, or type no. And, while you're down there, tell me which road game worries you the most. Is it the Chiefs rematch? The long flight to Atlanta? The Australia trip? Because here's the truth. If this team is going to make another Super Bowl run, they're going to have to earn it the hard way. And that brings us to the bigger picture. When you look beyond the travel miles and start breaking down who they're actually playing, things get really interesting. Now, when you zoom out and look past the flight miles and jet lag conversations, the actual opponents on this schedule tell a story of their own. Because, yes, the 49ers are traveling more than anyone ever has, but the structure of the schedule itself might quietly give them a window. Remember, this is a third-place schedule. That matters. Finishing behind Seattle and the Rams gives San Francisco matchups against other third-place teams. On paper, that's supposed to ease the path a little bit. It doesn't mean easy, it means manageable. At home, they'll face the Seahawks, Rams, and Cardinals as always. Divisional games are never comfortable, but you like having those battles at Levi's. Then you add in the Broncos and Eagles coming to Santa Clara. The Eagles game jumps off the page immediately. That's emotional. That's physical. That's playoff energy written all over it. If you're looking for a measuring stick game, that's one of them. The Raiders, Commanders, Vikings, and Dolphins round out the home slate, with one of those technically being played in Mexico City. That Mexico City atmosphere will be electric, but it still counts as a home game for record purposes. And that matters when we start projecting wins. On the road, though, that's where the grind shows up. Seattle, Arizona, the Rams in Australia, Dallas at Jerry World, and you already know Niner fans travel well there. That stadium turns red and gold fast. Then you've got Kansas City. If Patrick Mahomes is back healthy, that's a heavyweight fight. The Chargers at SoFi, which won't feel like a true road game. The Giants in New Jersey, the Falcons in Atlanta. So here's the question. Does the third place benefit offset the travel punishment? Because when you actually list out the opponents, there's no unbeatable gauntlet here. There are tough games, yes, but there's also opportunity. The NFC East and AFC West are solid divisions, but they're not invincible top to bottom. There are wins on this schedule if the roster stays healthy. And that's the key. Health plus depth equals survival in a season like this. If this team stays intact, if the core stars are upright in December, if the offensive line holds up, 11 wins is absolutely on the table. But if injuries pile up again and the travel fatigue compounds, suddenly that margin shrinks fast. So I want you to lock in on this right now. Be honest with yourself. Do you see this as an 11-plus win team? Or are you leaning under 10 because of the travel and physical toll? Drop your win prediction in the comments. I ready them. I want to know where your head's at. And if you've been riding with this channel for a while, you already know we break this stuff down year-round. If you're new, hit that subscribe button and join us. We're building something special here, and the goal is simple: 2,000 subscribers and beyond. If you want consistent, real Niners talk without the fluff, this is home. Now here's where the schedule conversation connects directly to roster construction. Because if you're flying 38,000 miles, depth is no longer optional. It's mandatory. And that's why the first move of the offseason might look small on the surface. But it actually tells you something about how this front office is thinking. Before we dive into that first roster move, let me talk to you directly for a second. If you're part of the faithful, and you believe this team is gearing up for another Super Bowl run, this channel is your daily home. We're pushing toward 2,000 subscribers, and every single one of you matters. So, if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. Hit that button and lock in. And if you really want to fuel what we're building here, use the Super Thanks or Hype feature below the video. That's not a donation. That's you fueling the quest for the next Super Bowl trophy. That's helping us level up production, bring you better breakdowns, better coverage, and build this community the right way. We're building this together. The faithful versus everybody. Let's keep climbing. Now, let's talk about the first move of the offseason. The 49ers brought back Nick Zakelj on a one-year extension. And I know what some of you are thinking already. That's it? That's the big news? But stay with me, because this actually makes sense when you view it through the lens of this schedule. Zakelj isn't a star. He's not a projected starter. He started 4 games in his career. Last season, he was on the practice squad and appeared in 3 games. He hasn't cracked the full-time rotation. So, why bring him? Question mark. Center is a question mark. Ben Bart is heading toward free agency. Spencer Burford is a free agent. Jake Brendel has been steady, but average. If this team wants to elevate from contender to champion, they need more dominance in the interior. Zakelj isn't the solution, but he's part of the depth structure. When you're traveling 38,000 miles, your 90-man roster matters. Your second string matters. Your practice squad matters. That's how you survive. And that brings us to the bigger roster conversation, free agency, because there are real decisions coming. Jauan Jennings is set to hit the market, and you love what he brings: toughness, reliability, big game mentality. But is he getting priced out? Probably. Eddie Pinheiro at kicker might quietly be one of the most important retention decisions. Clelin Ferrell provided valuable defensive line depth. Jake Tongs becomes interesting if George Kittle is coming off a torn Achilles. That tight end depth suddenly becomes critical. On the flip side, there are players you might be ready to move on from. Aging veterans, depth pieces that can be replaced with younger, faster options. Because if there's
Back.
one theme emerging
Two
from
words.
this offseason already,
Versatility
it's this.
and insurance.
This roster needs
He
to
can
get
play
younger,
center,
faster,
he can play guard,
and more explosive.
That matters more than ever
Travel-heavy
when you're
seasons
staring down a
reward
season
speed.
where your team will
They
spend more
reward
time in
recovery.
airplanes
They
than
reward
anyone in
depth.
league history.
So let me ask
Fatigue
you this.
increases injury
If
risk.
you could only guarantee
Offensive
bringing back
linemen
one
take
pending
constant
free agent,
contact.
who is it? Having someone who can
Jennings?
step in at
Is
multiple
it
spots
Pinero?
during a short week,
Someone else?
or after a
Drop that
cross-country
name
trip
in the comments.
is not flashy.
Because how
but
they
it's
handle
smart.
this free agency
And
period
let's be
will
real
directly
about
determine
the
whether this
offensive line
historic travel
situation.
schedule becomes
Left
an obstacle
guard is a
or
EU
just
I-
another chapter in a Super Bowl season. Now, this is where everything ties together. You've got a schedule that forces this team to travel more than any franchise ever has. You've got a third-place slate that gives you opportunity, but no guarantees. And you've got a roster at a crossroads. Key free agents, depth questions along the offensive line, and a need to get younger and more explosive. This isn't just about miles, it's about margin. When you're flying 38,000 miles, your margin for error shrinks. One pulled hamstring after a long flight, one short week after crossing time zones, one offensive line injury in December. That's how seasons flip. That's why the free agency decisions matter so much. If you let Jawan Jennings walk, you better replace that physical edge. If you move on from veterans along the defensive line, you better inject speed and stamina. If you decide to roll with average at center and left guard, you're gambling with your quarterback's health during a year where recovery windows are already tight. And then there's special teams. You might not think kicker is a headline position, but in tight road games, in Atlanta, in New York, in Kansas City, 3 points becomes everything. Eddie Pinero might not be flashy, but reliability wins games in December. This is the kind of offseason that separates contenders from champions. Because here's the truth. The NFL isn't going to feel sorry for the 49ers. They're not going to adjust the miles. They're not going to soften the schedule. If anything, the league leans into the spotlight. Australia, Mexico City, primetime matchups. The brand travels because the brand sells. But great teams don't complain about the road. They dominate it. And if this roster is constructed correctly, if they hit on depth, signings, if they add interior offensive line help, if the core stars stay healthy, this schedule could actually forge them. Road-tested, battle-hardened, ready for January. So I'll bring it back to where we started. Are the 49ers getting screwed, or are they being challenged? Because those are two very different mindsets. One looks for excuses, the other looks for opportunity. And I want to hear your final take. After breaking down the travel, the opponents, and the roster moves, do you feel more confident about this season or more concerned? Drop one word in the comments: confident or concerned. If you're riding with the faithful and you believe this team can overcome anything, make sure you're subscribed. We're pushing toward 2,000 subscribers, and every single one of you helps this channel grow stronger. Share the video with another Niners fan. Let's build this community the right way.